Weapons is written and directed by Cregger. It stars Julia Garner in a film which apparently is about a classroom of kids that go missing, but actually, having just come out of the cinema and seen it, it's about way more than that. I'm going to dive straight in. This is really one of the most fun times I've had in the cinema this year with a horror movie. And if you've seen some of my early reviews, I think you'll know that it's not been a great year in terms of like vintage horror. And I think there was a sense that like some of the best stuff was still to come. This is absolutely one of the best horror movies I've seen this year. And yeah, I'm sort of delighted by it. I think Barbarian was such a joy to sort of watch the first time around. And Cregger, I guess now is that horror movie director that I will now look forward to seeing what comes next. It's been 3 years, I think, since Barbarian. So I think he took his time, and actually he delivered something which actually shares a lot of similarities with Barbarian, but does very much its own thing. The setup is a classroom of school children, all leave their parents' houses at 2:15 in the morning and disappear into the night. And that's sort of the premise of the film. I think it's one of those films that really benefits from not really knowing where it's going to go. And that's sort of Cregger's thing. And he has a really good way of subverting your expectations and taking you in different directions and taking you in ways that you weren't really expecting, or you just had that sense of, I have no idea what's coming next. And he does such a good job of that with Weapons. You know, he has this really interesting way of being able to tell a story from lots of different angles, and for you to never quite trust that narrator, or like, you know, who am I going with? Who's the main character here? And in that respect, it does a similar thing to Barbarian, in that it does just take you on this kind of wild ride, and you don't really know, you know, where you're going to end up. I don't want to say too much about this film because I think I kind of thought I'd spoiled it by the trailer, and actually the trailer in hindsight really doesn't tell you a lot, and it really doesn't give you a sense of, you know, the depth of where this film is going or what's coming next. And that just made for a really entertaining experience. And, you know, I think you could hear a pin drop tonight. I'm in a South London cinema down in Bromley, and I normally get fed up by hearing, you know, munching popcorn and people talking. This film had people, like, it was held in the palm of the hand. And there was that sort of like nervous laughter at just the right points. There are real moments of horror in this movie. There are proper hand over the mouth, fear-inducing terror. It's genuine horror. It's really, really good in that respect. It has a sense of humor to it. Like, it's got a kind of a fun sensibility, but it doesn't do that at the expense of the kind of the horrific nature of it, and it doesn't take away from it. It's humor that you feel like actually, you know, could exist in real life. There's a sort of cutting through the awkwardness type humor in it, but it's not a film like The Monkey, which I absolutely hated, where they just use humor to kind of undercut that scare and the kind of the fear that you get. There are just moments of real punctuated violence as well in this film. I remember it flashed up at the beginning that it was an 18. I was just, you know, you don't see that very often. I think most horror films now are 15s. Like, it has to be kind of something to get that next level. And it does it sparingly, but when it does it, it's really, really effective. And it does a really good job of it. And I actually felt that it kind of it had enough breathing space between kind of gory scenes to really shock you and to really kind of come out of nowhere and surprise you. In terms of the actors, Julia Garner's done the first thing, is actually she's played a character I liked. I've seen Julia Garner in a few things now, mostly The Royal Hotel and Wolfman, and I've always found her to be quite a cold, maybe not a cold actress, but maybe the characters she plays are quite cold. I think Justine in this film is much more sympathetic. Like, there's a kind of real moral dilemma for her, and there's a real sense of, you know, she's taking the blame for a lot of what's happening in this movie, and you kind of sympathise with her quite a lot, and you kind of want to follow her. What's interesting about this film is it's predominantly a mystery. You know, for most of it, you're just trying to follow some of the clues, and you're kind of going on the same journey that a lot of the characters are going on, which is what's going on here and how's this going to all come together. And the way that it tells the narrative, the way that it breaks the story up into kind of these little vignettes, it almost feels like I've seen 5 different films tonight. And that's just what kept it entertaining, because there was always a sense of, what am I going to see now? What's going to be different without, sort of spoiling it too much? So it did that mystery part really well. I found it really intriguing, and, I kind of really wanted to know what was going to come next and what was going to happen. And then finally, I think the film just looks really good. It's sort of, it's a shame in a way it's released in August, because it's got a real dark, gloomy, kind of chilly, wintry feel to it, which I really, really liked. It's shot beautifully. It's got really good, great sound design. Like the jumps, it doesn't have it's not littered with jump scares. There's a good payoff, I would say. And in that respect as well, the payoff, Zach Cregger's just got a way of telling a story and a narrative that just makes him feel like it makes you feel like you're in a safe pair of hands. There's something about the way he does it that feels so self-assured, and like he knows exactly what he's going for. And I really felt that throughout. And it's one of those films that has a really good build-up and a really good payoff. Actually, the ending I just thought was so well done, and it didn't hang about. It kind of got in. It did what it needed to do. Literally the only criticism of that whole film, I would say, it does drag a little bit towards the end. It's a 2-hour film all in, and yeah, maybe it was probably 10 minutes towards the end. Not quite the end, because I thought the ending was really, really well done, but there was a slight lull in the pacing, and it sort of was a bit like, okay, could we kind of maybe get to the point a little bit? And it did. To its credit, it really did. So I'm not going to go into much more detail than that. This is a film I think you've got to go and see in the cinema. It was a real fun watch with a crowd of people, albeit a crowd of people who kept quiet throughout most of the film, which is rare these days. And it was just that general sense of unease and kind of like laughter, and that shared experience was really, really enjoyable. And it kind of needs to be seen on the big screen. So for me, I'm going to give this another 9. This is probably my third 9 of the year. And as much as this year's been quite average and a lot of films have been a real letdown, there's been some really good stuff sporadically over the kind of the first 8 months of the year. And Together is out next weekend. So that's another one that I have high hopes for. I feel like we've done this the last few years, where there's been a bit of a lull in the middle of the year. And then as soon as we hit the summer and the kind of the autumn months, things start to pick up. So very much recommend Weapons, and catch me on the next one.